This is Eurovision 365. I am Podrick and you are very welcome here regardless of whether you are a new or returning viewer. Thanks so much for stopping by. So I have made more than a few videos on this channel charting Ireland's challenges at Eurovision. For anyone who is uncertain of the many difficult years that Ireland has endured, feel free to go back through the content on this channel and take a look. This year was the year when Ireland recaptured the glory of the 90s and very nearly brought the microphone trophy home for the 8th time. So after years of apathy and abject disinterest, what made 2024 so different? How did this year represent a break in Ireland's dismal Eurovision fortunes? Well, as you have no doubt guessed, that is the subject of this video, and it's also on the title of the video. The selection process. Things were not looking good to begin with. In an interview last year, Irish head of delegation Michael Keeley inferred that would be the Late Late Show that would act as a vehicle to select the Irish Eurovision act. This set alarm bells ringing as this marked the third year of this process and it hadn't delivered great results. The Late Late Show did not appear to be the magical formula for unearthing those hidden musical gems that could deliver a victory for Ireland. Subsequent reports also announced that the submission window had been extended, which led many, including myself, to believe that perhaps what had been submitted was not up to standard, which left many feeling there was danger on the horizon. When the 6 songs were finally unveiled across 5 days in January, I think it is fair to say that many of us Irish Eurovision fans were left pleasantly surprised. Many had been clamouring for diversity, and this selection certainly delivered on that. Pop bangers, rap, Ouija pop, and Irish language, it was all there. It was hard to imagine an Irish selection that had promised so much in the recent past. Gone were the public image limited publicity grabs, and in their place were earnest, serious, and largely independent artists who were actively gunning for a shot at stardom. RTE, to their credit, were also stepping up. The Late Late Show studio had been reconfigured in a cabaret style setup, and there was even an actual stage constructed which was going to help acts showcase their musical offerings to the viewers at home. It is worth saying at this juncture that RTE still have much to do in their journey to producing a successful national selection competition. While 2024 was a step up, there is still a lot to be done to produce a national contest that Ireland can be proud of. While it's unrealistic to expect a Melody Festival style event, Finland's UMK is what we should be aiming for. Ireland has a similar population and, let's be honest, love of music. There is no excuse for the substandard Late Late Show offering. I understand you have to cut your cloth, but Ireland can have aspirations and perform at a high level at Eurovision. 2024 is a case in point. RTE may think this is a show for the Irish, but it attracts an international audience, and when what is being produced is substandard to a country like Moldova with a similar population, questions need to be asked. RTE, like all public service broadcasters, is up against it when it comes to funding. No one is expecting Netflix-style blockbuster output, but if a decent national final is out of grasp, then internal selection would be the better option. The vast majority of the audience and contestants will thank you for it. Speaking of the contestants, the release window needs to be longer to allow the acts to capitalise on the short window of interest that exists before the act is selected for Eurovision. In addition, I would question the decision to debut the acts on Ria Darcy's radio show in the middle of the day. Couldn't this have its own show, or at the very least, a Late Late Show reveal special? RTE could then open the voting for 4 to 5 weeks following the first performance of the songs. It's a win for RTE as in greater revenue, and a win for the acts as they have a number they can use to actively canvass for votes. Something similar did happen in 1996 when Pat Kenny was helming the Late Late Show. It would be likely Irish Eurovision interest has increased somewhat following Bambie's win. Bambie is the winner! Upon winning the Late Late Show special, Bambie was off to Malmö carrying the hopes of a nation. I have made many videos charting the Late Late Show and my thoughts and reaction. I don't want to cover too much old ground, but Bambie was the roll of the dice that Ireland had to take. There was nothing else on offer that was this left field and would have had the potential to inject some hope into Irish Eurovision fans that they at least had a shot of doing something. Predictably, warning shots were being fired from the most predictable of quarters, but it is 2024 and Ireland is a very different place. Yes, Bambie was divisive. Content that others, including myself, made at the time was flooded with comments of support and derision in almost equal measure. But Bambie was memorable, and that is the key takeaway. Bambie's profile was rising at a meteoric rate that we had never seen before. Yes, we had had popular acts and stars take to the stage before, but Bambie was driving a very important and new narrative. Bambie from the outset was making it very clear that they would work so hard in Malmö, and this became readily apparent from the outset. Bambie was an established artist and has enjoyed success in the UK. From the music video to various media appearances, this was an artist who seemed very comfortable in their own skin and was gracious and kind, as well as being a very talented and driven performer. Support for Bambie! It was being reported in the media post-national selection that RTE had only played the song a small handful of times on the radio. This is an accusation that has been levelled at RTE before, and it would have been hoped that lessons had been learned from the past. While some may not consider Doomsday Blue the most radio-friendly of songs, it is incumbent on the public service broadcaster to rally the nation behind the Eurovision act through adequate airplay of the song. According to the Journal, in February, a month after Bambie's win, RTE 2FM had played Doomsday Blue a mere 6 times. British radio station BBC Radio 1 even played the track. In the future, I believe RTE should throw more support behind the Eurovision act to help build momentum. To put this in context, Sam Ryder's Spaceman was never off the radio in 2022 and was being played across all BBC regional stations prior to Sam landing a second place finish in Turin. Artists need to feel the support of their nation if they are going to do well. Support for Bambie seemed to come from more grassroots sources, with Wee Blog's polls had Bambie's song being consistently rated highly, and OG Ireland were working to push support for the Crown the Witch narrative. Imagine the support that could be leveraged for future Irish acts if fan clubs, national broadcasters and record companies are all working together in the pursuit of the same goal. This is what I would like to see next year in terms of alignment between all of these groups. The key takeaway is that not one of these groups can do it alone. It requires a joined-up approach to push for the best results come May time. The momentum. Momentum was building for Bambie, and they became a fan favourite during the pre-party circuit, the traditional run-up to Eurovision. Bambie was bold and brave with their memorable fashion choices. Bambie is of course an artist flavoured in the alt-gothic style, and this came across in the high artistry that was presented in their costumes and style. Bambie also changed elements of Doomsday Blue, suggesting their willingness to experiment and test audience engagement. The music video was also a huge success, which at time of recording has over 3 million views. The music video showcased Bambie's penchant for the visual arts and blends high camp cinematic gothic style with a touch of humour thrown in. If this was a taste of what we would see on stage, things were definitely looking up for Ireland. The performance in Malmö. The performance in Malmö had been crafted specifically for the television audience. When seeing the rehearsal in the arena for the first time, my eyes were constantly being driven to the monitors. This was 100% the right course of action, as these 3-minute stage shows are predominantly for the millions of people watching at home, not the audience in the arena. Bambie had employed a single male dancer and had crafted a gothic love story complete with ring of candles and seamless costume change. The imagery was potent and memorable. Upon first watch, it became clear that Ireland was definitely going top 10. Many people remarking on the song said that although it may not be their taste, it was certainly memorable and well produced. This is sometimes all it takes to score well at Eurovision. Something slick and unforgettable, and Bambie had this in spades. I saw the live performance many times, and Bambie was able to successfully reproduce the performance time and time again. Let's not forget, this is both a physical performance with lengthy screaming sections. A song such as this demands something of the performer, and Bambie handed this over every time. This was the first time in a long time that Ireland could go into a semi-final with a pretty much guaranteed shot at qualification. On the night, Petra and Malin waited until the 9th spot to call our name. There was a brief moment of panic where we thought, perhaps we miscalculated. Maybe the audience didn't get it. Maybe it didn't look as good on TV. And when that moment did come, we were all truly elated. Not since 2018 had we heard the magical word Ireland. And let's not forget, we didn't just scrape in the 10th spot. In what was arguably a difficult semi-final, Ireland came third. This meant that number 1, we could all relax for the rest of the week, and number 2, a top 10 result was looking highly likely. Not since 2018 had we felt so confident about doing well at Eurovision. Bambie and Palestine. Bambie, as well as all our performers, had a very focused stance when it came to the war between Israel and Palestine. The shadow of this conflict loomed large over Eurovision, with many, including us content creators, trying to navigate, at times, difficult and unfamiliar landscape. While I admire anyone who has the courage of their convictions to speak out on global issues, I do think that these kinds of conflicts can never be solved on the Eurovision stage, and the Eurovision stage is not a battleground. It is meant to be an apolitical and peaceful space where countries can showcase their culture and creativity through music. Bambie had claimed they were being harassed by the Israeli delegation, which is disappointing if this is true, as it goes against the spirit of Eurovision. I do, however, thoroughly disagree with the merciless booing that Eden Golan was subjected to every time she took to the stage to perform. While I understand people's strong emotions on the subject, individuals are not their government and no one can help where they are born. As a Northern Irish person, I have very strong feelings on sectarianism. Others will argue that 3 minutes of a 20-year-old girl's discomfort is worth it to raise awareness about what they feel is an important issue. I can see both sides, but perhaps the best form of protest is to boycott the competition completely. The EBU had agreed to allow Israel to compete in the competition, so anyone that purchased tickets and decided to attend Eurovision in Malmö did so with the explicit knowledge that Israel would also be competing. I don't understand the logic in entering what is meant to be an apolitical space and then just booing people. To those that say we have a right to protest, I thoroughly agree. You 100% do. But if you watch that performance back, the boos have largely been removed, so you could question the long-term impact of jeering and booing a young Israeli performer and what impact that will have in the grand scheme of things. When the same crowd will champion a Be Kind message and a loud proclamation of inclusivity for all, it is disappointing to see this being applied on a conditional basis on what is meant to be the greatest night of our lives as Eurovision fans. I have grown up in a conflict zone, and there are no easy answers, but if we start pulling apart the fabric of the very thing that many of us go to escape what is often a difficult and challenging world, what will we be left with, if anything at all? Bambie and other acts were left in the unenviable position of having their performances being overshadowed by these events, and what should have been unabashed joy for the Irish Eurovision fans was being sullied by the internal battle lines being drawn. After the contest, Bambie declared "fuck the EBU," but the EBU are not the word police, and they can't take or make moral judgments on how countries conduct themselves. The EBU requested that Israel rewrite their song, which they did. What more can they reasonably be expected to do? Very few countries have a spotless record on things like arms manufacturing and human rights. So where does the line get drawn? The EBU are a broadcasting organisation, not the United Nations. We shouldn't look to them to solve global conflicts. That's not their job. This would apply to Olympics and other governing bodies. They are not moral arbiters and can never be expected to condemn nations for their actions on the global stage. Eurovision needs to sit outside of this if it's to survive into the future. We as fans need to understand this as conflicts across the world develop. It is sad to see something that is actually meant to bring us together being the very thing that ends up dividing us. Let's hope 2025 can bring us more business as usual. The final. Bambie delivered a stellar performance, and post their Tuesday night semi, their YouTube video became #2 trending. This was a very positive sign indeed of things to come, as it suggested global interest was going to translate into votes. A failure to appear at the flag parade generated a panic moment of will they, won't they, but on Saturday night Bambie was out and delivered a stellar performance on behalf of the nation. Matt and Bambie should be very proud of their performance, and this will go down as one of the greatest performances ever at Eurovision. As the results started to filter in, Ireland was at the top left-hand side of the scoreboard, with the Australian jury dishing out the magical 12 points. Hearing the word Ireland 12 points used to be a given, so in the contest brimming with nostalgia, this felt very apt. RTE television bosses would have been sweating buckets in Donnybrook, again just like in the 90s, as the prospect of Dublin 2025 was looking very real for the first half of the voting. This was a long-awaited moment for Irish Eurovision fans and marks a welcome change from how things usually unfold for the Emerald Isle during the final voting, on the rare occasion that we even make it there. Seeing the tricolour in second place for the first half of the jury voting is something many of us will never forget. A fairly balanced jury and audience scores showed that Doomsday Blue had the magical formula to connect with both groups, and as we know, landed Ireland a very respectable 6th place. The aftermath. I do think that some of the events that followed the voting in relation to the EBU and Israel did overshadow what should have been an unabashed cause of joy and celebration. There are many reasons to be cheerful. The first non-binary winner, Croatia's best result ever, Ireland's best result since 2000, Luxembourg's triumphant return. While I'm not trying to play down the importance of global events, the unashamed joy and escapism that Eurovision provides was heavily tainted by external political reality. What next? Well, like it did for songwriter, Eurovision has delivered for Bambie, and they are now off around Europe on what I have no doubt will be a very successful tour. Their star is firmly on the rise, and they have secured global legions of fans that they didn't have before. RTE will be overjoyed at their best result in 24 years, and also breathing palpable sighs of relief that they, as a cash-strapped broadcaster, don't have to put their hands in their pockets to host such a lavish spectacle. RTE now have a solid foundation on which to build, and this could now finally be the beginning of Ireland's redemption arc at the competition. Although RTE have made some positive changes, they still have a ways to go. The Eurovision process needs significantly more investment if Ireland is going to have any kind of sustained success. In a recent interview with the I'm Sorry 0 Points podcast, Irish head of delegation Michael Keeley said that Bambie used their own team to drive the Eurovision campaign. Bambie being in the driving seat and taking full creative control was undoubtedly what led to such a positive outcome. However, to ensure that Bambie is not a flash in the pan, there needs to be a symbiotic relationship that exists between the broadcaster and the artist if there is to be more top 10 finishes for Ireland. I said back in February that Ireland's only option was to roll the dice on something as left field as Bambie to have any kind of shot at success. But we as Irish fans can't keep rolling the dice and gambling with our future at Eurovision. We need a well-constructed and thought-out process that heightens our chances at doing well. Hope and guesswork can only take you so far. I said last year that I wanted to go to Sweden believing that Ireland could do well and not experience the chaotic scramble to scrape through into that 10th qualification spot, and confidence was one thing that we Irish fans could have this year thanks to Bambie. RTE and Ireland should be bolstered by the result. I would hope to see an even better national selection contest as a result. RTE should finally see that the Eurovision is a worthwhile investment and is something that Ireland can and should be doing well at. Ireland, as we all know, has a wealth of songwriting and performing talent. Bambie's good results should encourage more would-be performers of all kinds of genres and styles to step forward for the nation. Dublin 2026? Let's never stop believing. I suppose after all that, the key takeaway is,
you should send me because I'm a wild card. I'm a dark horse, and because I would slay for you. I would work so hard. I would.
when a non-binary Ouija pop witch from Macroom says they will slave for you in Malmö, you should probably believe them. Europe may not have crowned the witch, but they came very close, and in doing so have reinvigorated a whole new generation of Irish Eurovision fans. Let us all hope that this is only the beginning of our journey to a win in the next few years. So, you spent the last 20 or so minutes hearing what I think, but I'd love to know what you think. Is this the start of Ireland's journey back to the glory, or was Bambie just a lucky fluke never to be repeated? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I look forward to reading them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. But until then, take care. Bye bye.